Welcome to Introduction to Canvas. This is part 3 in a series of 4, and we'll cover creating and editing assignments, discussions, and quizzes. There are 2 ways of adding a new assignment, quiz, or discussion thread. The first is to click on the item in the course navigation, and then create a new one directly from that page. If you do it this way, you will need to take the extra step later to add the content to your module. The other way is to start directly from the modules page. First, we find the module that we want to add an assignment to. Then we're going to click the gray plus button at the top right of that module. And from the drop-down menu, you have a couple options here. We're going to start with assignment. We can choose to add one that's already been created, or we can make a new one. We will call this one Midterm Review and insert it into the module. You can see that the item is grayed out, meaning it's unpublished. Students won't be able to see it until you publish it by clicking on the gray circle over here to turn it green. Students will also not be able to see any content in an unpublished module, even if the content itself is published. So for example, if I unpublish this module, the students will not be able to see any of these published items within the unpublished module. To edit my midterm review assignment, I'm going to click into it and click on the Edit button on the top right corner. There's space for you here to add description and directions, just like the syllabus. You can add links to content from the right-hand content menu, or you can embed an image or video using the buttons above the text box. So once you have directions typed in, you'll need to do the settings. First, you will specify how much the assignment is worth. By default, and the way grades are actually calculated, is points, but if you click on the Display Grade As option, you can see that you can display the grades in points, percentage, letter grade, complete, incomplete, or not graded at all. Not graded is especially useful for things you want to appear on the course schedule, like readings, but not put in the gradebook. So let's give this review 20 points as an example. And now we'll go down to submission type. There are a lot of submission options available, but you'll want to stick to online for the most part. External tool is for when you're creating something like VoiceThread, and no submission is, again, for when you're assigning something like readings, something you want to show up on the course calendar with a due date, but you don't want it in the gradebook. On paper is for face-to-face courses when you still want to use the Canvas gradebook to do your grade calculations for you. So we're going to do online. Now you can set the submission format. So you can select any or all of these options. If you select media recordings, then students will be able to submit on-the-spot webcam or audio recordings using the built-in Canvas recording and capture capability. If you select file uploads, you'll also be able to specify what file types are acceptable for submission. Canvas will only allow the file types that you enter here. The options for group assignment, peer review, and moderated grading are more than we have time to go into, but the how-to guides on those are very comprehensive and easy to follow, and I recommend taking a look at the Canvas guides to get more information on these options. Lastly, there are the access limits. Assignments default to everyone in a given course, though if your course has sections, you can assign things per section. Due dates default to 11:59 p.m. on the day that you choose. The availability dates are separate from due dates. Assignments do not automatically lock at the due date. For example, a student can submit an assignment after the due date, and they can continue to submit, but it will be marked as late until the until date. The until date closes the assignment. So if you do not want to allow for late submissions, your until date and due date must match. Let's move on now to discussions. Discussions, if they're graded, have a lot of the same settings as assignments. So if we take a look at one that's already created, and click on Edit. So just like an assignment, you'll have a box for directions and prompts at the top. Let's say your prompt is to discuss an image. You can select one from the Images tab of course content at the right, and even upload a new image on the spot. Or you can use the Embed Image button above the text box. You can give a URL, select an image already loaded up to Canvas, or pick one from public domain on Flickr. Let's say you want an image of a cat. You'll click on Search Flickr, enter your search term, and then you can select which image you want to choose. Canvas will automatically embed it for you. To delete it again, just select it and hit delete. Say you want to use a video in the prompt. You can select one from YouTube or one that's in your Kaltura media space using the Kaltura embed button next to the YouTube button. If you click on Kaltura and you have video already created, you can select it and it is embedded for you. If you want to add new media, you can do so either in the course navigation or directly from the page again by clicking on the Add New button. Once you have your prompt, you can move on to settings. First, we have the discussion-specific settings. There's allow threaded replies, users must post before seeing replies, graded, allow liking. Discussions can be a group assignment, but remember that if you want groups to discuss different topics, then you need to create separate discussions and assign them to separate group sets. A discussion item can only have one top-level entry, so there are no subtopics in Canvas discussions. If you have graded selected, then you will get the full menu for graded settings. You can enter points, display grade as, and enter due dates, just as you would a regular assignment. If your discussion is graded, a blue notice box appears at the top of the discussion, so students can easily see which discussions are graded and which aren't. Last, let's look at a quiz. Just like other item types, a quiz gives you a text box for description and directions and assignment settings below that. First come the quiz-specific settings. First, you'll need to select what type of test this is. A graded quiz goes in the gradebook. A practice quiz can be given points for feedback purposes but does not go in the gradebook. A graded survey gives points for completion but not for right or wrong answers, and an ungraded survey does not appear in the gradebook or show point totals, and these can be made anonymous. You can select options to shuffle answers with each take, to limit the time students have to take the test, and whether or not to allow multiple attempts. You can also select whether and how students will see the answers to the quiz. You can limit the time that the correct answers are available as well. Once you've set these options, though, there's a second tab at the top. This is the Questions tab. We don't have enough time to get very in-depth, but if we click on the plus New Questions button, you get a new question to fill in. You can select the question type from the drop-down. In this case, we'll do multiple choice as an example. You enter your question text in the text box here, and then you will have your possible answers. You can remove answers by clicking on the trash can. You can choose the correct answer by hovering over each answer and clicking the green arrow to mark it as correct. These green, red, and blue boxes are to add feedback comments for your students. Make sure when you're done you click on the Update Question button and then click on Save. This concludes Part 3 of our Introduction to Canvas series. Part 4 will cover assignment groups, student view, and grades.